Hello, this is Erica with Launching Legacies. Welcome to our daily devotional. We're continuing our conversation about the Beatitudes, right? The attitude that we should be in if we're going to serve others. So today we're going to look at the persecuted. Most people think, persecution? I'm not excited about that, right? We don't usually associate being persecuted with being blessed, right? Most people, even modern Christians who've read the Bible and know what the word says, find it that they think that it's always the work of the enemy or evil or darkness when they're persecuted. But Jesus is saying something very different here, and it's important that we kind of get a idea of why he's saying what he's saying. So here we are. We are in Matthew 5, and we are verse 10. We're almost done with our Beatitudes, and it says this: Blessed, and I'm reading from the Amplified version. So blessed, comforted by inner peace and God's love, that's how they define blessed, are those who are persecuted for doing what is morally right. For theirs is the kingdom of heaven, both now and forever. All right, and so some translations say, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, right? That's the King James Version. But what is the general concept that Jesus is saying? He's like, look, you're blessed if you're persecuted for doing what's right. And most people, like I said, are not thinking that way, right? If they have difficult times, if people don't accept them, if they struggle or they even have any hardship in their life, most people abandon their position in faith and say, well, I guess the enemy is he's messing things up. He's doing all these things. And they have a lot of credit for evil or darkness, right? And not a lot of credit for the ability to be persecuted and to endure. And it's interesting because when we look at the early church, right? We look at the church in the New Testament. The New Testament church was persecuted. The disciples, they were martyrs. They were executed in all these strange ways. They had difficult times. They weren't received in certain cities. Now here we have in America in particular, if you're a Christian, you can just do whatever you want, right? You can carry your Bible around with you. I wear a cross all the time. No one's ever said anything unkind to me or inappropriate. I've never been persecuted for just believing what I believe. But imagine we would go beyond just believing that, right? So I'm wearing a cross. It doesn't really mean I'm doing anything. I'm just believing. It demonstrates my faith. But what if I, started to talk to others about Christ? What if I walked around and was engaging people in my faith and I was being righteous in doing whatever I was doing, right? Because remember, Jesus says early on in this passage, he says, look, there's some of you who think that when you're done with all of your good works, you're going to come to me and say all the great things you said you did, but I'm going to tell you that I don't know you because you did them on your own account, right? And so those people, he's going to say, you know what, I don't know you because you did that on your own account. But now righteous things, right? What God calls righteous are the things that he really does intend for you to do. They're not just good things, but they're good things that he intends for you to do. So now imagine you're doing those good things, right? You feel like you are following his direction and you're leading on the charge and you're doing everything that he's told you to do. Imagine you're doing that and you get persecuted. It's going to be difficult stuff to do anyway, right? It's going to cost you to sacrifice. It's going to cause you to have to be one way or have a certain attitude, right, when you want to have another attitude. And so it's going to be an uphill battle because for us, these types of behaviors are not necessarily our norm. So here we are doing all the things that we feel like we should be doing because we're following what God is telling us to do. And imagine you're persecuted in doing that. Like you are attacked in doing that. You face difficulties because you're doing that. And you're doing what's right. It's morally right. But you are persecuted. You are distressed. You are pressed on every side, is what Paul says. You're pressed on every side. And nobody seems to be able to give you rest in that place. If that's what you're doing, Jesus blesses you. But are we even willing to approach that area? That's the question, right? It's like, you just painted this really because persecution is not a small thing, right? Persecution is serious. It's not just, someone doesn't like you. No, to be persecuted means almost to be chastened after to be punished for something, right? Or to be, convicted about something, dogmatically. There's a dogmatic concept in persecution, meaning people are looking after you to get you. So here you are, you're being being persecuted. You're being persecuted. And Jesus is saying, look, I know you're being persecuted, but you're blessed. Most people look back and say, were you with me when they were chasing after me, when they were trying to find me, when they wouldn't let me get rest, when they were, being persistent in trying to get me? Are you sure that this is a blessing? And Jesus says, yes, you're blessed because yours is the kingdom of heaven. What is he saying? If you're willing to fight for what is right, if you're willing to endure hardship for what is right, if you're willing to go through some difficult times and difficult places for what is right, not your own right, but God's right, then he says, yeah, you are blessed and you deserve the kingdom. You deserve the kingdom. Why? Because you're willing to go through whatever it takes to keep that kingdom. Now we think about this in a night like old fashioned time, right? The times of knights and castles and dukes and whatnot, a medieval time, right? So we go back to a medieval time when the people wanted to protect their kingdom, they would do anything, right? They set up these beautiful strategies. They did whatever they had to do to make sure that their citadel, right, that the kingdom of the citadel was protected, and it was their important job to make sure that it was protected, even if they were pressed on other sides, even if archers came or with flaming arrows and all these types of things came against them, they received the persecution of the enemy in order to protect the kingdom. And so in the same manner, Jesus is saying, look, if you're willing to do what the kingdom has commanded, which is to be righteous, right? If you're willing to be righteous and you receive persecution because you're wanting to be righteous, you're going to be blessed. And the kingdom is truly yours because that is what I'm calling you to do. But it doesn't always look glamorous and it's not always pretty. And sometimes we think that we're serving people and God is going to be so happy that he won't let us experience any hardship. And that would be the wrong idea. The concept here is this: you will struggle, you will suffer when you're serving others. But if you're willing to suffer, if you're willing to be persecuted because you want to do what's right no matter what, you are blessed. And the kingdom truly is yours. It's going to happen. Suffering happens no matter who we believe, no matter who we serve. If we are people in this world, we will suffer. But persecution, if you're willing to be persecuted for what is right, then your attitude is right. That's the attitude that Christ wants you to take. Now, I pray that most won't have to be persecuted. And I would say that in the United States at this point, most have not seen persecution in that way. But there may be a time where it comes. Or you may be called to a place where you will be persecuted. And if that's the case, are you willing to do it for righteousness' sake? What happens if that comes? What happens? What's your attitude or disposition towards persecution for what is right? Are you like, I'm out, I can't do it, I'm out? Or are you someone who's like, well, I'll stick in there for it? And you'll know, and I'll tell you how you'll know. When you look at the small difficulties in your life, the things that you have to go through because you want to do what's right. Sometimes we have to pay more for things because we're trying to do what's right. Sometimes we have to endure some other small hardships because we're wanting to do what's right. We aren't cutting corners, right? We're not doing things in our own manner or the way that we used to do it because we want to do what's right. Are you willing in those small things to do what's right no matter what? That's not even persecution. But can you endure, right? What it means to deal with difficulties? Or are you a person who's always crying and whining and you're falling apart and you don't have the stamina to deal with whatever comes from doing the right thing? It's an attitude check, right? We have to be people to say, look at myself. Can I endure? Can I endure this for righteousness' sake? Or am I kind of soft in that area, not willing to continue on? Well, it's something you should check yourself on. I'll be praying for you as you go through the process. And I bless you that you would find yourself either having abided by this attitude, right? Willing to be persecuted, or maybe not, but moving in that direction. Well, until tomorrow, I will see you later. And I hope that you enjoy meditating on this concept that yours is the kingdom of heaven if you're willing to be persecuted for righteousness' sake. Have a wonderful day.